práce s identitou týmu a s takovým týmovým duchem, což naznačuje téma jeho přednášky a předpokládám, že se to v té jeho přednášce objeví. Mario, you can start.
I agree with everything she just said, even if it was very bad for me. Dobrý den, ahoy, and that's all I can say. So for the rest, it would depend on the translation. Who in here is a coach? Who's a coach? Okay, so most people are coaches. Okay, so that's what I've been told, and Veronica decided to open this sports psychology event with someone who is not a sports psychologist, which is interesting. But the idea was that she asked me to start in order to show, especially the coaches, me as a coach. I've been a coach for 34 years now, and started in football, and then floorball, and then ice hockey for many years here now. So she wanted me to talk about how do I do that in practice, and what's the challenge of working with team sports, because I really believe that's a different kind of work that I have to do, or we have to do. And the coaches are not sports psychologists, and they're not mental coaches, so especially in team sports, many times the question is, why would we invest time and money in this, because it doesn't really help that much. And frankly, what is it anyway? It's so weird. This okay. So I have been a professional coach for many years. I had my master's in social pedagogy and social education, social psychology, and what I do for many years is I work in player development in general, not just mentally, of course. And I also have my own company that I work for with many individual athletes. First of all, it's right now it's mostly hockey players for many years now. And to me, I work for many years in development with young players. I guess a lot of coaches here also work with younger players, and I believe it's part of the athlete's education to also learn about mental strength, because they don't really know what it is, especially in team sports. And a lot of team players have not a lot of good experiences or no experience at all. So you can imagine when I work with hockey players, with young hockey players, which is a very manly sport, that's what they believe, and there's a lot of testosterone in the locker room and a lot of muscle pumping. So when the word psychology or mental drops, then a lot of these guys react in another way, like, oh no, what the whatever. Now we have to do some gay stuff and lay on the floor and meditate, and they don't want to do that. And I didn't want to do it either when I played. And as a coach, I had a hard time to understand, shouldn't we better shoot more pucks and skate more, and what is it really going to help us in our results? And so I believe that I realized with time and time that the more the players, the older they get and the better they get, the more their personality is important. There's so many good, I used to work also in the WHL and NHL and in North America for the US and Canadian national teams in the past, in the beginning, and coaches talk about players and they talk about their personality. Oh, he's a good kid, I like working with him. No, he's an idiot, don't pick him. This guy is difficult to work with. He's a talented player, but he's just stupid. He's very good in practice, but in the games, he's under stress. You cannot really depend on him. So I developed a player development model that I work in general, and the way I try to explain to regular coaches why could this be helpful led me to this player development model. And basically, I explain coaches and players because they don't really understand. First of all, the core is what happens inside you. It's all your thoughts up here, cognition, and all your feelings down here, emotion. And both things are invisible. We don't see what's happening here. We don't know. I don't know if Karin is very motivated, if she thinks, wow, that's a great slide. If she thinks that's a terrible slide. If she thinks I should have eaten something for lunch, I'm very hungry now. Or if she's already dealing with her own presentation. We don't know. We have our assumptions, but we don't really know what's happening inside of these athletes. So that's only them. They have to deal with this. It's their problem. If you're anxious, you're nervous, you're too aggressive, you're too loose, too lazy, whatever, that's your problem, and there's not much we can really do here if he doesn't show or open up in any way. But of course, after a while there's a pattern. So what comes outside from the inside, that's the way he acts. That's on an action level. So we see this guy here, he closes his eyes and laying back. So I assume he's tired, or he doesn't like my speech, or he has eye problems, that's why he has to close his eyes. But the only thing is, when these feelings or thoughts manifest in some activity, then I can have a perception, and I can probably assume what he does or what he does not. So most of our coaches, we tend to see what's happening on an action level, and we make our presumptions in terms of his capacities, personality. That's why I call it personality, because I believe we have to develop it together as coaches, or help develop, and as mental coaches, sports psychologists, because mental strength is really part of a player development. And I don't talk about personality in terms of private character. You can't change character. That's not what we're trying to do. I talk about player personality. So in the role as a player, just like when I go to work on a bank, I will have to wear suit and tie, and I'm not going to do that privately. But as a player, you have to develop your role set in that role. And that's part that every job has to do it. And for some reason in team sports, we don't invest too much time on that. And then of course, and that's the difference to individual athletes, there's the outer rim, and that's the team. Of course, our personality influences by action our team and what's happening outside, and vice versa. So together with all the sport skills, that's all the different skills that a player has to develop within his career in order to become hopefully a professional or a very successful athlete. So what it really is, it's the foundation. So that's my message to the coaches when I talk about that is, yeah, you don't need that. That's sure, and you need to focus on skating and shooting and everything and physical stuff. But that's the foundation of the building. And when this is strong and stable, then you can build a lot of sport competencies on there. And if the foundation is shaky and not very stable and not very strong, we all know, then it's going to be limited. There's going to be limitation, and it's going to be very difficult to perform. That's the reason why I see many, many very talented players that never make it to the pros, because that's not what it's all about. And that's why we have players, if they're not motivated anymore, if they lose focus, if they lose their interest, if they don't want to do it anymore, they just quit, and they don't get better, even if they try to. So that's something that you can benefit from. Obviously, all these are individual skills, first of all, and you cannot replace individual work with a mental coach or with a sports psychologist. You cannot replace that with the work in the team. That's just not possible. Every kid has to develop his individual skills, every athlete. But in team sports, we try to develop these basics within the teams. So what I'm doing, I work for the Swiss ice hockey national teams from under 15 to under 20. We have a program. What we try to do is in every step we bring in some stuff about personality and mental skills. So like for example, we start at the under 15, talk about mental strength and personality, what it means, talk about individual progress, take responsibility for what you do. It's not the coach's fault or the parents are responsible. We talk about goal settings, then we continue with the team ability, how to be a good teammate, which is important, obviously. Team and individual roles, identity, expectations as a national player, because under 16, that's the first level we play internationally with our teams. Under 17, there's the first big tournaments we do abroad. Next Sunday, I will fly to the US with the under 17 team. There we talk about international challenge. It's more difficult. We're not used to this kind of competition. We play the best players. Sometimes we play the Czech players and the Slovaks, and it's always different. We talk about energy management because that's very important during a game, but especially when you're in a tournament for about a week. And we talk about resilience because there's out of the comfort zone, there's going to be a lot of different challenges, and we need to be resilient and we need to withhold all the pressure. And then up there, the first thing is it's even more individual there. It's a lot of being exposed and pressure because, as you know, when you're in ice hockey, that's when all the scouts, when you play international world championship and there's hundreds of scouts and there's expectations and the journalists starts dropping in. And then of course, depending on the current situation, we bring in stuff that it's important there. Well, what we also do in the Swiss Federation now for the last couple of years, we started to bring in player education. So we set up a concept where I present lessons where every coach in the federation can take the lessons. The lessons are finished, they're prêt-à-porter. You can just pick them and do it with your team. There's all the explanations that you need. We try to do it very, very simple. So there's no reason to not do it. It's very simple and it's already done. So with different situations that we give already done lessons that every coach can try with his players to bring in some foundations, starting at 6, 7 already. And on the other hand, I do all the coaches education right now. That's very new. We started this 2 years ago, and we still improve a little bit now. I do in every level of coach education, from the first course up to the pro diploma. We bring in topics about personality development and mental strength. In every single course we have now these mandatory contents. And right now, if you want to do the professional level coach or the highest diploma, you have to do the mental and personality development courses. That's also new for the last 2 years. So what do I do when I'm with the teams? Real quick, I support players, the team, the players individually, the team, and also the coaches. I support them individually, help them to develop individual tools for the competition, and also help them if there's some issue coming up. I do the same with the team. I'm pretty much the guy who runs the team development, the group dynamics, the game preparation. And of course, I also talk with the coaches because I believe even for the coaches, the pressure is higher in international competitions. And also they have feelings. Is that right? Am I wrong? I don't know if it's scientifically proven, but at least we have one coach with feelings here. Thank you very much. It brings back the belief in human society. So it also helps for the coaches. The coaches now tell me after a couple of years we do it helps them to keep the mental focus because they do not keep the mental focus. So they're so busy doing so many things. Mental situation of the players is not their first problem. Not because it wouldn't be a problem, but they're not specialists and they can easily lose the focus on this. So now they have a specialist, an expert, that makes sure we never lose focus on this. So the second part, real quick, what is, in my opinion, as a coach that is still a coach, in my opinion, when I developed these programs, I really had some experience working with individual tennis players, golf players, ski racers, bikers, whatever. And I started to realize after all my experience as a team player in different sports and as a 34-year, now it's 35 years of experience as a team coach, what's the difference for us as coaches in mentally in working with team athletes and individual athletes? In my opinion, there's two things, two major differences. And one is responsibility. I want to explain it very simple. And individual athletes, they start their sport very early, let's say 6-7 years, okay? Even if they start later. They learn from the beginning. What they do has something to do with their results. So they have to take responsibility. If I put the ball in the net, it's my fault. If I fall on my bike or on my skis, it's my fault. There's no one else to blame. If I don't put the ball in the hole as a golfer, it's my fault. In football, I hear all the times, yeah, we played much better, we were the better teams, we just didn't score the goals. What of a stupid excuse is this? It's like the golfer saying, I was much better, I just didn't put the ball in the hole. So maybe that's not responsibility. But that's different. For them it's clear, every single action, every single decision has a direct impact on the result. Okay? For team athletes, we're in a system, we're in a group. We don't decide who's our coach and who's our teammates and whatever. We're within a system. There's many other responsibilities. So I don't have to make all the decisions. It's not my, if we lose a game in hockey or in football, it's not my fault. And it's not because team athletes are lazy or stupid, it's true. There are 2,000 different reasons why we lose a game. That's true. There's nothing more stupid or lazy about these kids, it's just true. Yeah, that's what it is. So that's why learning responsibility for your own development, your own actions, is something that individual athletes don't need to learn. They learn it right away. It has to do with what they do every day. And team people need to learn it. Second difference, again, that's results, okay? Has to do with the first one. Individual athletes, they know I have to work on very, very detailed aspects. High jumpers need to know the angle of my upper arm, if it's 17 or 18 degrees, it makes a difference. I can lose or win a competition because of this 1 degree, 1 millimeter, 1 second, okay? So they know that's important for my success. That's why the tendency is that in Europe, it's different in North America, but in Europe, sports psychology mostly, or mental coaching, mental training, mostly work in the area of technical aspects and movements, mostly. That's the beginning, okay? Because that's what makes sense for individual athletes. For team athletes, they can use a better shot, they can work technically very, very good on shots, but I hardly see hockey coaches doing the 1 millimeter or the 1 degree angle for hours and hours with all their technical equipment and videos, because in the end it doesn't mean a lot in terms of the result. Yeah, even if this player is able, through his very hard work, to shoot much better, it doesn't mean we win the game. And even then, we can be much better and play very strong. Coaches, you know that? Did you ever play a very good game and still lost it? Yeah? Did you ever play very bad and won the game? Yeah, but luckily. Okay, so the result doesn't really have to do that much with our performance sometimes. That's why winning is not a good goal for teams. It's very bad. It's fun and it feels good for the coaches, also for the kids. But in terms of individual development, winning is not a very good goal. And it's the opposite. I can tell you the paradox is the better players you have, the less they have to work to win a game in team sports. Which means most of the time, if they're very good, they can score with 50% of an effort. So that's why individual goals that have nothing to do with winning or losing are sometimes important. So what it means, if we're depending on many, many different factors, it means team players depend a lot on resilience to accept what's happening around, stuff they cannot control, okay, instead of losing energy for the uncontrollables. And on the other hand, group and role is a very important thing that the other speakers also will address. How many times do I left? 5 minutes? That's a lot. Two things that I believe we need to focus as a coach. Group dynamics. Huh? Just some very simple example with this baby mobile here, okay? That's our teams. Huh? If we move one sheep, everyone's gonna move. Everyone's gonna move. There's no individual working with players without influencing the entire team. That's group dynamics. That's social psychology. Okay, it's pretty simple. Whether it's a big movement or a big influence or something that we realize or we don't realize, but they're all connected. So if we work with one player, we work with the team. If we work with a team, we influence every single team member. That means what we need, first of all, is a good learning environment. And in team sports, that's first of all, that's the team. If a kid doesn't feel comfortable, he's not going to show up. Or she's not going to perform very well. And that's why I believe team development is very important. And it's not making a barbecue and hiking in the summer and then for the rest of the season, all right, team development, checked. No, the team is going to change every single week. Every experience, every win or loss, every practice you do, the team is going to change. And it's a constant dynamic change. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we have a team identity. That's us. That's who we are. We're not Sparta, we are Slavia. That's the difference. Because we at Slavia, we do this, this, this. Who are we and who are we not, maybe? Okay? You have to live a positive culture. There's no way as a coach you can accept bullying or bad behavior or disrespectful behavior, because your kids depend, every kid depends on a good climate, or they're not going to show up. And that's the number one issue. My goal as a coach is I want the kids to have fun, they like to come, and they will come back next week. And that's the way they can learn and even improve better, which is interesting for the coaches anyway, okay? Encouraging communication, okay, that's obviously an issue, huh? Supportive leaders, that's you. Leaders who support kids, yeah, you did well.